Greetings, folks, and welcome to today's show. Our subject today is a little bit on the different side. We don't do this very often. And the subject is the 2020 National Census, whatever that is. And our guest is Gary Cordell, the mayor who you know as the mayor of Coffee County. But in addition to that, he's also been designated the director of the census for Coffee County for 2020, and it's in that capacity that we want to talk to him today. So, Gary, thanks very much for taking the time to join us, and it looks like you got quite a chore ahead of you.
Yeah, we got quite a chore ahead of us, but looking forward to the challenge.
Yeah, tell everybody, what is a census anyway? What does that mean? What do you do?
A census is a count where all counties are directed by the federal government to every 10 years to perform a count of the population in their county. And that goes back, as we were talking about, back to the Constitution, and we've been doing those since 1790. So that's nothing new for us.
Yeah.
It's new for us, but that's a big task that we've been challenged with, and we've got the responsibility of conducting that census for Coffee County.
Okay. Well, let's mention that again, folks. The reason we do this is because Article 1 of the Constitution says we'll do it.
Right.
And the first census was in 1790, and we've been doing one every 10 years ever since. So a lot of you out there don't remember the 2010 census. Some of you were too young. And so we're starting an extensive education process, probably. So we're going to count every resident, and we're also going to count every household in the U.S. And we're doing it to fulfill a constitutional requirement, but it is also extremely useful information, as we'll talk about as we go along. So, what are the main uses of the census, Gary?
Okay.
Well,
we know that federally there's about $675 billion that we've been told will be distributed or whatever, or at least the economic impact of that for the counties will be a part of that. And we've been told that's about $1,061 or $1,091 of economic impact per person. They don't get that money, and the county doesn't get that money, but that's supposedly going through all the different federal agencies and whatever. That's the economic impact.
And this is that an annual number? 600 number I saw was 675 billion. Gets redistributed to the states and the communities,
right.
And that's every year.
Yes,
so
sir.
That's a lot of money.
It's critically important that we have an adequate count and get everybody counting that we can.
Right. We can't emphasize that enough. And one of the main purposes of it, I think, really probably the reason it was set up, was to control the process by which we apportion congressional seats.
That is correct.
So the census determines who we have, how many representatives we have, and what the areas are. And then another big use of that is to assist in establishing the districts, trying to define where our congressional and senatorial districts are. So it's in that sense, it's very, very, very critical purpose. What can you iterate some of the benefits that come out of this? What can we expect out of it? It's going to benefit us individually, local governments.
Local governments
are going to get a chunk.
And but the biggest part of that is state programs and whatever, and the way that flows down to the different counties and so on, and through the federal government. But that has to do with health care and just whatever. We're not sure as to how that's going to track going forward, but we've been assured or told that the economic benefit of that would be over $1,000 per person to the county and to when it flows down to the grassroots level.
I think folks probably one we don't appreciate at all is that the data that comes out of the census is used for all kinds of things on an ongoing basis that we're not even aware of, like how many schools you're going to need, how many hospitals you're going to need, and where to put them. Businesses are going to use it to decide where to build factories
Yes, sir.
and hire people. real estate developers are going to use. All this development you see going on around the countryside is guided by numbers that come from somewhere, and that's where it comes from.
And our planning on that, we just reached the tip of the iceberg on all the plan going forward.
Yeah.
As far as what we got to do in the county, from a county standpoint, to get it all done.
Well, yeah, you are getting. I think it's a fair question. I think if it's a 2020 census, here we are in the middle of April 19. How come we're bothering with it yet? Why are we starting now?
All counties have been encouraged to go ahead and get an early start on that, so that we have the mechanism in place with the committees, and that's part of what I'm doing right now. We've had our second
you got to build an organization.
Yes, sir. We got to build an organization, and we've got committees formed with about 25 people, and we've got different subcommittees, and I've got a list of some of those right here that we're going to be looking at, and we've got a lot of work ahead of us. And we've got to have a faith-based subcommittee, community organizations, business associations. We're involving our chambers, involving county government and local government, and getting all those to the table. And so we got a lot of people to pull from. And already I've asked two people, the head of our two local senior citizen centers, to be a part of that, so we'll address the needs of seniors. And I've asked a person to be involved with the veterans, because going forward we've been assured or told that the federal government will be employing on a part-time basis about 50 to 80 people to take care of this process for Coffee County. So in the process now of getting that word out to people, and I'm hoping a lot of our seniors and our veterans will come to the table on that. We've been told that would pay about $12 to $15 per hour to those people. But so about 50 to 80 people will come to the table as far as employees, and their time frame would be somewhere around 14 months or so.
These are the people who are going to go out and do the counting or have it done.
Right.
Right.
And one thing that would be different on this time, Tom, compared to the prior censuses, is that we're trying to computerize how that done, so that the bulk of that collection can be done online.
Right.
So that next spring, when people have to go door to door, we hope to minimize the number of people who have to go out door to door.
Yeah. Well. Yeah, we want to talk about that. What is the process you're going through? And again, I think I don't want to lose track of the fact that the primary reason for doing this, and the reason I'm sure the Founding Fathers set it up, was to control the process by which all over the country we decide how many representatives we're going to have in the Congress, and what their districts are comprised of, and also used to draw those districts. So all the process we go through of redistricting, which is a very controversial process, and we're always accused of screwing it up in one fashion or another.
And we will try to do it right.
Yeah. So, but that is that's probably the primary reason that it's done, is to make sure that the representation in Congress reflects what the founders meant for it to do. So we got, how come this sounds like it's kind of a complicated process? What makes it so complicated?
Just the process to go through, having to establish with what the federal government has passed on down to us. And there's a Middle Tennessee director of this, and we're working with him. And he's new in that role, so he's learning as well, and we're trying to get it, to make sure we're doing it right, and that we get proper notification to the counties at the county level to try to meet an April kickoff date. And I would mention that we just, in our last commission meeting, the commission just passed this resolution.
This is the county commission.
The county commission. So we have this ready now that we can hand out, and we're going to have a kickoff here in the next few days. We have to have a media subcommittee. And
what is this resolution?
It's just declaring or announcing to the world that we're going to be doing a 2020 census count.
Okay.
And this is an announcement to the Coffee County that here it is.
Okay.
It's time to do that, and it takes the time to get it all on the table. And so you got to start. I've been tasked with the responsibility as director of that to come together and appoint different people in the subcommittee makeup with all the different subcommittees. So we've got about 25 people that I've asked to come to the table, and we've had 2 meetings now. We'll have another meeting in the middle of May, and we're just taking it step by step going forward.
Okay.
I've got a person involved in recruiting that I've tasked her the responsibility of trying to start that process and start recruiting these 50 to 80 people. So it's complicated. It's we're all looking for answers, we don't have all the questions yet, so we're trying to walk through this process together.
Yeah. Don't have the
Complicated.
questions, and a lot of the questions you have, you still don't have answers to.
Don't have answers.
probably.
Don't even know the questions to
Yeah, so,
ask on some of this.
Yeah, when you stop to think about it, folks, the reason this is really so complicated, I think, is that you're looking at, what's the population of the U.S. now? 300 and some odd million?
320 something.
320 something million. And you're looking at the number of people, the number of households. You're looking at a very diverse population.
Yes,
and part of their reason is trying to collect information on, so we can show that diversity, what it is, and a mobile population. We keep moving.
Yes, sir.
That's got to complicate the count process by quite seriously. I don't know how you overcome that, but
and it's going to be interesting to see what our total count is.
yeah.
We're having a lot of growth, we know that, but it's going to be really interesting to try to determine that total count.
Okay, so we're starting. Why do you think we're starting early? Why do we need to talk about it a year ahead of time?
Because the federal government has said that it just takes that long to get the infrastructure in place to get to where we can get to the count with all the different subcommittees. Because subcommittees, for example, with faith-based, I've asked a pastor to chair that subcommittee, and I've asked him, or tasked him with the responsibility of getting 3 or 4 other pastors so they can begin to reach out to their fellowships so they can make sure we're getting a proper count. It's going to be a lot involved in that. And I'm trying to get a Hispanic representative as a pastor to make sure that we don't leave out that segment of our population, a very critical segment. But we're putting a lot of thought into this process with addressing senior issues and veteran issues and education and business, and so we've got a lot coming to the table.
Yeah. That's another point. We have a very diverse population.
Yes, sir.
You know, they come from everywhere. They represent all sorts of backgrounds, and their needs are very different, and the services we provide are very different. And trying to pull all that together has got to be a pretty complicated job. So you're basically are saying you're starting now because it's going to take you a year to put all this together, to get the organization set up, to get them trained, to have your workers start practicing so that they're able to go, and you're probably going to have you got translator? What are you going to do with all the different languages you run across?
Don't know. That's one reason why we've got to have a qualified Hispanic person there to serve to reach out to that community, because there'll be some translation issues.
You're going to, and you may decide you need other languages besides Spanish.
Could be. Sometimes we don't know that we don't know, but we'll find out.
I don't know either. Now, if you're looking at Shelby County, for example, or Bedford County rather, they got a sizable population up there that came from one of the African countries, Sudanese, I believe. So that's another complicated. I don't know that we have a community like that in Coffee County.
Not to my knowledge, no.
Where it represents a major segment other than Hispanic. Arabic, we got.
Not to my knowledge.
Yeah.
Maybe very
We
few,
don't know
but not
we
to my
have
knowledge.
any of those. Okay, but you're also going to have to provide language assistance for those that need it.
Yes,
so,
sir.
and you don't yet know what all languages
don't know.
you're dealing with. Yeah. So, okay. Well, with that, folks, we've sort of put a dent in things. Let's take a short commercial break, and we'll go some more.
The glory days. Running to daylight on the gridiron. And chasing a ball with a mind of its own. Cheering the team to victory. And marching to the beat of your own drum. Memories that last a lifetime. But sometimes we're reminded of our glory days in ways we'd rather forget. Get back in the game. The rehab team at Life Care Center of Tullahoma is ready to help you live and play well.
Okay, so what would you bring to my company?
What do you need?
I need problem-solving skills.
I got through high school without a car, a phone, or a computer.
No college degree, though.
Not yet, but life's taught me a lot, and I'm ready for more.
Well, you're not the typical kind of candidate that I hire. But you are exactly what I'm looking for.
Your company could be missing out on the candidates it needs most. Learn how to find a great pool of untapped talent at gradsoflife.org.
Keith Barnett here at Russell Barnett Ford of Winchester. Check out the 2018 Ford Taurus, yours today for $24,995. That's Russell Barnett Ford on 41A in Winchester, home of the lifetime powertrain warranty. And remember, my question is, why buy anywhere else?
We're back, folks, and we're talking with Mayor Gary Cordell, who, in addition to being mayor, is the director of the 2020 Census for Coffee County. And he is just in the process of getting organized. He's got a terrific job to get done between now and early next year when the actual count takes place. So, and let's, part of our purpose of doing this, folks, is to get you started thinking about it, familiarize you with what is required, and particularly to encourage you to participate, right, to pay attention and to take time. So, Gary, talk a little bit about how this is going to work. What process are we going through?
I wish we knew completely. As I said, we're just learning day by day and month by month how to do this with a new director from Middle Tennessee. We're all learning together. But we know we got as I said, we got to get the subcommittees in place, which we're trying to do right now. We've had 2 committee meetings, and I've convened about 25 people to come to the table, as volunteers, to man the different subcommittees. And then in time, we'll be going through training, and we don't know yet what the training will consist of. That's going to be unfolded step by step, meeting by meeting. So we'll be apprised of some of the training we've got to go into, so we don't know yet what training that will involve and what the questions. And I've asked to give us some questions as to what were the person involved in recruiting, for example, what are some questions that person will need to know to assemble that team, and where do we go from here. So we're all learning this together. I wish I could give you more information on that.
I understand.
But we're just taking it month by month.
But when it comes time to get started, what's the first thing that's going to happen? How will the people out there at the household know that you're starting?
Well, they'll be apprised of. We'll be getting data out to them through the school systems and whatever. We'll have brochures and signs and media presentations to inform the public of the fact that we've got to do this and to announce that. And that's part of the reason why we have the resolution here, just to announce to Coffee County citizens that the census is coming, and we're encouraging everyone to participate in that. But there'll be a lot of advertising that has to go forward. We're still in the process of trying to determine what that advertising will consist of and what kind of budget we're looking at. We don't even know yet the budget that we'll be working with. Those will be county dollars that we have to come up with.
Yeah.
We were apprised, and so there'll be a lot of advertising, whatever we've got to make to develop that advertising campaign to promote that and give brochures or to their students throughout the schools, so they can share with the parents and whatever that the census, it's here. We've got to do this. Well, and one thing I found out with this, Tom, I think about 3% of our population, I found out in our meeting 2 weeks ago, was that some of that's going to be done by mail or online. So I was in that 3%, I guess, and it took me about 45 minutes to complete all that. I couldn't believe all the questions that were asked. I don't know why I was in the 3%, but that's neither here nor there. But some will be done in advance, and they're in the process now of getting that information out. I got my data, I guess, about a month ago that I had to do that, so I've done mine.
But how do I, Joe Citizen, know that it's time to get started? How am I going to know that that I'm now taking part in the census.
Yeah. Well, we're just going to, through this resolution and through advertising and the news releases that will be coming forward, they'll be there to apprise the public that this here, I don't know if the federal government will be sending out to every household a guide, instruction, whatever. We don't know that yet. We're assuming so.
I understand they do, yeah. The first thing that happens is that I don't know whether it's every citizen or every household. It's probably going to be every citizen is going to receive a questionnaire through the mail.
Right. That'll be come through the mail.
And
we've
you have
been
to fill
assured.
it out
Go ahead.
and send it back. What if I don't?
Well, there'll be follow-up to that, and we've been assured, we've asked that question, we've been assured time and time again that the results will all be confidential by federal law. That's, law enforcement's not involved in that at all or whatever, so, you know, the safeguards are in place. We've been assured that the confidentiality of that will remain intact. But if we don't respond to the first one, like I didn't respond to the first one, I waited next week, just didn't get to it. Then I got a follow-up letter on that, and another follow-up letter, so they'll be letting you know.
Yeah.
It's time.
So, yeah, I understand if they don't receive the response to the first one,
You'll get
another one.
Yes, sir, and another one.
And a phone call. And somewhere along there, I think, well, and this is really worth repeating 2 or 3 times, the confidentiality of that data. And we're trying to count every person in the country, whether they're a citizen or not.
Yes,
and so if you're not a citizen, and especially if you're here illegally, I'd be kind of silly to fill that thing out, wouldn't I?
Yes, sir.
Why wouldn't you report me to the...
We don't know how that'll work. We'll see.
Well, the data is supposed to be confidential.
Absolutely.
So that it will not be used to notify the people that deport us out of the country.
Right. Yeah.
So
we've been assured that will not happen. We
Yes.
verified that on the front end. And one thing we were apprised of, Tom, before the first meeting even, that they've shared with us that the largest segment of population that's harder to track or get a count on are the children 5 and under, which makes some sense. I can see that.
Yeah.
So going forward that process, going through this year and leading up to kick off in January and whatever, the bulk of that will be, we're trying to do that online to speed up the process and whatever. But then those that do not respond in time, they'll have home visits. That's part of, that's the way it's always been done.
yeah, I understand. If you you'll receive a second questionnaire.
Yes, sir.
And if you don't answer that one, somebody's going to come to see you. A census
So we're
worker.
trying to minimize those home visits and
Yeah.
trying to run people down or track people down.
Yeah, the census worker will come and knock on your door. So that's and that's of course a major undertaking, which I
Yes,
know you hope you don't have that many of.
Right.
So our part of our real purpose in getting started now is to persuade you folks that you really need to respond, that it's important in all kinds of ways, and the information is used for the next 10 years
Yes, sir.
for making decisions at every level in the country by
Right.
every organization, which is we're not even aware of that the data is being used for that. There's also something, and I wasn't able to get a handle on what this is, and maybe you haven't gotten to there either, something called the American Community Survey. Have you heard anything
That's what I just did.
about that?
Yeah, it was titled American Community Survey, and that's what I did in that 3%, where we were sent out that request early. So I'd raise that question myself, what is this? But that's the title of the survey that's coming out apparently online or in the mail to those 3% that's coming early. So I just did mine a few weeks ago. But I did do mine online, because the next step would be to follow up by mail and have it done by paper.
Yeah, I saw some numbers. I don't know where this came from. That survey has something like 46 topics on it, 46
At least
subjects. And,
I assure you, those topics were there. Questions that I thought, what does this have to do with anything? But a lot of questions there.
Yeah, and who all did that go to? Who's
Supposedly 3% of our population.
3%.
Yes, sir. I was told 3%. So for whatever reason, I was in the 3%.
Okay. Well,
That's a much
I
more
saw a
depth.
number somewhere that there were 3 million households.
Could be.
That's not 3%.
Yeah.
So
I don't know how they're doing that. It's,
3% would come up to be
you'd think a lot more
something
than
like
that. but
9 million households.
Yeah, we were told 3% though.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're about to run out of time. What is your timeline, Gary? You've got, as far as the folks out there, when are they first going to hear from you?
Really soon. I'm hopeful in the next 2 or 3 weeks we'll be getting the first announcement out to the public, because we passed the resolutions in anticipation of getting that announcement made in April to our citizens.
Okay. All right. Well, as the year goes along, folks, we're probably going to need to revisit this again to
Maybe several times.
Again, remind you and encourage you to take part. And meanwhile, Gary, I thank you for taking time to join us.
Thank you for the opportunity.
And
I enjoyed
thank
this.
you, folks, for inviting us into your parlor. And we will see you next time.